going YouTube? I'm Landon Dalletsing. You guys know that. Welcome back to another Most Amazing Top 10 video. I'm so glad you guys clicked on the video. People who are in an unconscious state who cannot be awakened are said to be in a coma. They're unable to respond to stimuli, light, or sound, and they can remain in a vegetable state for a very long time. However, medical miracles happen every day, and today we're going to be talking about the top 10 people who survived the longest comas. Starting us off like we always do, and at number 10 is Gary Dockery. He was a police officer responding to a call when he was shot in the head by a drunken man in 1988. Since that incident, he was in a coma-like state for 7 years in a nursing home recovering from his injuries. But after he underwent a lung surgery in 1996, he suddenly woke up and began to talk non-stop. He was able to remember his family, his friends, even his horses. Sadly, he died the following year. Miracle Mom comes into this list. Number 9, a woman went into a 7-year coma after she gave birth to a baby girl in 2009. She contracted blood poisoning due to inflammation, which caused her to become comatose. She remained in that vegetable state for 7 years until she shocked the doctors when she suddenly woke up. She pretty much came back from the dead. Take a look at these pictures of this mother meeting her daughter for the first time ever. The recovery process will be long, but at least she's able to watch her daughter now grow up. Next up, number 8 is this father who woke up from a 7-year coma. This is truly an ironic case. A man from South Africa has been in a coma for 7 years, and when doctors gave him a sleeping pill, he woke up. Back in 2005, he was involved in a serious car crash that left him with extensive brain injuries. His wife refused to give up on him, and she was constantly researching information about comas. That's when she suggested to the doctor that they try a sleeping pill called Stilnox. And 5 days after they administered the drug, he woke up, and he was even able to recognize his family and even speak. Ghost Boy comes into this list at number 7. Martin Pistorius fell into a coma when he remained in a vegetable state for 12 years. Doctors predicted that he would die, and his mental capacity was equivalent to a toddler. However, Martin said that he woke up from his coma about 2 years later and was paralyzed, unable to open his eyes or speak. Martin was fully aware of what people were doing and saying, but he couldn't do anything about it. He described it as being trapped in his body as a ghost boy. Finally, 12 years after he initially fell into the coma, he was able to communicate with the help of a computer, and he is mobile with an electric wheelchair. Next up, number 6, we have Jason Darlin. After spending 16 years in a coma, Jason was able to miraculously wake up from his coma, and now his life goal is to get people to understand how important it is to take life seriously and to treat their bodies well. He is a traumatic brain injury survivor who is trying to spread the message that you should live every day as if it was your last. And you know what? I like that message. Okay, so the man who woke up 19 years later comes in at number 5, Terry Wallis. He was only 19 years old when his truck swerved off a road and plunged down 25 feet into a creek. He was found 24 hours later with a broken neck, paralyzed, and he was in a coma. His family would visit him in a rehabilitation center every other weekend, and miraculously, during one visit, he opened his eyes and spoke. He has suffered from extensive brain damage and left him with poor short-term memory, and he remained stuck in 1984. Another 19-year-old coma survivor comes into this list at number 4. Jan Grzebski fell into a coma after being knocked over by a rail car in 1988, and doctors predicted that he wouldn't survive for much longer. Well, they were wrong. 19 years later, he woke up from his coma to an entirely different world. He was overwhelmed by the modern world, and he found it really hard to adapt. Sadly, he actually died 2 years later due to a heart attack. Next up, number 3 is the 2-decade coma. Sarah Scantlin had been hit by a truck driver in 1984, and because of her severe injuries, she was left in a coma-like state for 20 years. Unable to respond, eat, or do anything for herself, she was essentially trapped in her body. Suddenly in 2005, she started to communicate, and she was dubbed the medical miracle. Rom Houben makes its way onto this list at number 2. For 23 years, he was imprisoned in his own body. He was able to listen to conversations around him, but he was unable to move or speak. He could only listen. Could you imagine that? I mean, is this real life right now? Doctors said that he would remain in a vegetable state and he would not be able to feel or even hear anything. This went on for 23 years until a neurologist decided to use a type of scan that discovered that his brain was actually functioning almost normally. This neurologist saved saved his life, and Ron was given communication techniques so he can live a more fulfilling life. Flight number 1, we have a woman who went to sleep and woke up 30 years later. Annie Shapiro fell into a coma at the age of 50 years old in 1963 when she suddenly woke up nearly 30 years later. She was absolutely shocked when she looked in the mirror. She could barely recognize herself or her family. Imagine waking up and not knowing who you are. She found it hard to adjust to the new world, but after 2 years of physical therapy, she was making some very good progress with walking and eating and adjusting to her new world. That is just amazing. Well, there you guys have it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you guys very soon in a new Most Amazing Top 10 video.